So Donald Trump put together a ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel, and it looks like it's going to stick. Hillary Clinton is happy. Jimmy Kimmel gave Trump a compliment, and the Free Palestine movement is radio silent. I'm going to dig into all this and explain why Trump is getting this unusual praise and why people like Hillary Clinton are so happy this deal is going through. First up, so Donald Trump has been working to negotiate a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel since he's been in office, and it looks like they finally have a deal together. Trump showed up to Egypt yesterday to give a speech and sign the peace agreement. Leaders all across the world are praising Donald Trump's diplomacy. Egypt gave him their highest honor. I guess it's like a Medal of Honor or something. All the hostages that Hamas took on October 7th have been released. All of the prisoners being held by Israel have been released back to Gaza. Israelis are celebrating and dancing in the streets. Palestinians are dancing and celebrating in the streets. It seems like this is actually going to hold, and it looks like everybody's happy. So it's a really good thing in my opinion. Some people are saying it won't last long, and some people are just generally grumpy that Israel basically destroyed Gaza. But for the most part, everybody who is actually involved in the conflict directly seem to be happy that it's over. Everybody is celebrating except the Free Palestine movement. They haven't been saying anything at all, which is weird because I expected them to find at least something wrong with the peace deal. Like, oh, well, Israel still committed a genocide. They need to be tried for their crimes, or Israel needs to pay reparations to the Palestinian people, you know? Something that shows their continued support for the people that they have been so violently advocating for. But nope, nothing. Nothing at all. No free Palestine people dancing in the streets of New York or L.A., and not even a critique of any kind, which is really extremely odd to me. Benny Johnson made a video talking about this.
So for years now, hideous left-wing orcs with bullhorns have been taking over college campuses, marching and rioting in our streets, saying they want peace in the Middle East and to free Palestine. And President Trump has now freed Palestine. So where are these protesters? In their filthy kiffas, holding up signs of President Trump saying this is our dear leader. Where the hell are you? Where'd you go? Exactly. Did your bullhorns run out of batteries? Where are you like camping out to thank President Trump when he lands back at the airport for ending the war? Isn't that the point? This is what you wanted, right? You wanted the end of the war. You wanted Gaza to go back to the Palestinian people. Well, Trump just delivered that. And he did it with the backing of Israel and all the Arab nations together. And the people in Gaza are celebrating. Well, so where the hell are you? You stuck in your little tent in Colombia?
So a lot of people are really baffled about this. They're saying, oh, it was never about free Palestine. It was about Orange Man bad. They only want to hate Trump and can't give him any credit, which I think that might be like part of it. But the real reason is much simpler. The Free Palestine movement was not a grassroots movement. Hamas directly said that the Free Palestine protests and influencing Western opinion was an organizational goal. And there were quite a few cases of people who were outed for being in direct communication with Hamas to help further this goal here in America. Just that alone is indicative of the fact that the movement was not organic. But the fact that the discourse from the movement immediately stopped after the war stopped points very strongly to this being the case. It has always been the case that winning the hearts and minds of people during times of war is just as important as winning battles. It would be foolish to think that Israel and Hamas both were not spending a significant amount of time, money, and resources to sway public opinion in the West through propaganda and protests. They were both fighting battles on two fronts, the battlefield and the court of public opinion. Arguably, Israel was doing a really bad job on that front and even publicly admitted that they were trying and failing. To think that a bunch of young college students were able to coordinate something so massive because it's something they really believed in is laughable at best. The fact that the rhetoric suddenly stopped really helps prove that there was not a whole lot of original thought that was going on in that space to begin with. People were just parroting whatever they heard and were showing up to events that were already organized because they had nothing better to do. And as soon as Hamas stopped shooting on the battlefield, they stopped their efforts to court public opinion. And all of a sudden, nobody has anything to parrot, and nobody has any events to show up and protest at. On the flip side of things, Donald Trump has been receiving some noteworthy praise from some unusual sources. Hillary Clinton, in an interview with Condoleezza Rice, gave Trump a compliment.
It's a really significant first step, and I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire, the hostages will be returned, and then the very hard work of rebuilding Gaza, of finding the kind of security that Israel and the Palestinians after Hamas deserve to have, moving forward with the other points in the plan to try to create an opportunity for Palestinians to have a better life and for Israel to have greater peace and security. I am very...
Not only that, Jimmy Kimmel had some good things to say as well.
What a day for Donald Trump. You know what? He finally did something positive today, and I want to give him credit for it because I know he's not the type to take credit for himself. Trump was in Israel and Egypt today to celebrate a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. All 20 Israeli hostages are home after 738 days. Almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees have been released. And while we're only in the first phase of what will undoubtedly be a long and tricky process, the fact is the bombing has stopped, the hostages have been released, and Trump deserves some of the praise for that. And so I know it sounds crazy to say, but good work on that one, President Trump.
ABC News even said that Trump deserves all the credit for getting this deal done.
We've heard it again and again from a number of people today, really giving credit to President Trump for getting this deal over the finish line. What are you hearing from your sources with regard to President Trump's role in getting both parties to sign off on at least the first phase of this peace plan?
Well, certainly this is an enormous moment for the world, but also for this administration, a big win for the president, who has been very personally involved in this, Lindsay.
A lot of people are surprised to hear this kind of praise coming from these places, but I wouldn't bet on the fact that any politicized organization or person on either side of the aisle is legitimately and wholeheartedly giving their political opponents credit because they feel like they deserve it. I think the sudden about-face and perspective and rhetoric is a coordinated effort to try to improve what is already a very bad situation. That very bad situation is the Free Palestine movement, which has been, let's be honest, an absolute disaster for the Democratic Party. Regardless of what you believe about the conflict or how you feel about Israel, one thing is very clear. If somebody wants to run as a presidential candidate in the future, support for Israel is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on or what your beliefs are, the likelihood that someone who is hostile towards Israel or refuses to pledge their support for Israel will get elected as a president is practically zero. You could speculate as to why that is. A lot of people do and don't like it. I just look at things for what they are, and that is one thing that I know is certain. So, if a large portion of your voting base is actively involved in a movement that is vehemently opposed to something that you under no circumstances can denounce, you can see how that creates a big problem for you, especially when that movement appears to be a top-down propaganda machine for a United States designated terrorist organization. And when people associated with that movement are destroying college campuses, assassinating Israeli diplomats, and executing terror attacks on U.S. soil, it kind of puts the leadership in a bad situation. They're parrots and sheep who normally protest and parrot their ideas and talking points have been ideologically captured in a way that they can't easily win them back, and they're now voting against them. So the peace deal is probably the best thing that could have happened to get them out of the situation that they are in without publicly denouncing Israel and without losing the support of their base. And as you can see, they are pulling out all the stops to divorce themselves from Free Palestine movement as quickly as possible. I mean, if you have Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Kimmel coming out and publicly complimenting Trump, you know something's up. But that's my take on the whole thing. Thanks for listening. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you didn't like it, feel free to trash me in the comments. See you next time.